as with boxing, when it's at the elite stage, you can't play games.
Necessarily striving to win. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I told you. It's WWE. Okay? This is WWE, like I told you.
For multiple reasons. One, they have a huge size difference. Tank Davis, he's a lightweight, normally fights at 135 pounds. And Jake Paul, he's a cruiserweight, usually fights at...
Floyd Mayweather calls out Jake Paul for the no-knockout rule in his upcoming fight with Gervonta Davis. He says Jake only cares about hyping the event and making it entertainment instead of a real contest. Floyd thinks the fight isn't serious, though he admits both fighters know exactly what they signed up for. He stresses that real boxing should be about talent and competition, not staged roles that make it look like a show.
But like I said before, they know what they're doing. Both brothers.
Wade Plemons on X pointed out that while everyone knew Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis would be an exhibition, the Florida State Athletic Commission saying the fighters would show skill without aiming to win through headshots or full contact wasn't the best way to market the fight. Known for his sharp boxing commentary, Plemons argued this approach weakens the excitement for fans expecting a real clash. At the same time, Floyd Mayweather, who has always thrived on competition even after retirement, has shifted attention by pushing for a fight with Mike Tyson. Analysts believe this isn't just about money, but also pride and staying on top. With Jake and Tank drawing headlines, Floyd's move ensures the spotlight swings back to him, proving once again that his name still carries unmatched weight in boxing culture.
That there's so many celebrities and so many people that are known where you can get somebody and they can sell tickets to events. That's what kicked off the social media influence boxing that Jake Paul was birthed from. Now we're in a vacuum. And so there's going to be a lot of conversation about that and continuing to do that. In this particular video, though, I want to get into the mind of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and why Floyd Mayweather Jr. would do this. There is the money, but there's also the competitive nature of Floyd Mayweather Jr. and him not wanting to have other people think that they're a bigger star than he is. Floyd Mayweather Jr. has not been able to really launch his star outside of the sport of boxing, so he continues to do exhibitions. Now, what I think is that Floyd Mayweather Jr. is announced it at this point in time with Mike Tyson, and in order to take advantage of the publicity heading into the Gervonta Davis Jake Paul fight, which is, I do believe, set for November. So now that they have all the publicity and all that stuff coming out from that, he's going to piggyback on it and then try to have it in the beginning of next year sometime and actually make it a bigger event than Gervonta versus Jake Paul. And it probably will be. And the reason that I say that is because of Mike Tyson.
At the core of all this is legacy. Mayweather, retired and undefeated, has nothing at stake in exhibition fights. For him, it's about money and keeping his reputation alive. Jake Paul, still new to boxing, uses these big events to grow his name and brand. But for Gervonta Davis, the choice is more serious. Every fight he takes now shapes the path of his career. By leaning more toward entertainment than true competition, Davis risks losing respect from purists who want to see him face real challengers. The question is quick fame worth the long-term cost?
What is going to happen in that fight is basically the same thing as what's happening to Canelo Alvarez and Terrence Crawford, except for that is a live action fight. That is a real competitive fight, but the marketing of it is the same thing. And the fact that somebody is going to pay for it is more likely with Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Mike Tyson than it is with even Jake Paul and Gervonta. But I think that it really is an attempt to compete with Gervonta Davis by setting up a bigger fight than Gervonta Davis is having. And I'm going to tell you this something else too. I would not put it past these people.
The Jake Paul versus Gervonta Tank Davis fight might have been enough to dominate headlines, but Floyd Mayweather made sure the spotlight swung back to him. For decades, he has perfected the art of grabbing attention, even if it means bending boxing traditions. His latest move proves he still has a sharp competitive edge. Floyd refuses to let anyone, whether it's Jake Paul with his celebrity fame or Tank Davis in his prime become the face of boxing's current era? By signing to fight Mike Tyson, he instantly set himself up as the main attraction again. The mix of Tyson's legendary name with Floyd's undefeated record creates a storyline far more powerful than Jake versus Tank. Controversy around Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis comes from the fact that it won't count as an official boxing match. The commission has ruled it only an exhibition, meaning it's a show and not a true professional contest. Critics argue this makes the fight feel more like WWE-style entertainment, where the focus is on spectacle rather than victory. With no knockouts allowed and no real stakes on the line, many see it as a marketing stunt instead of a legitimate fight. While it may spark quick buzz, purist fans believe it waters down the sport and takes away from the authenticity of real boxing competition.
Will face Gervonta Davis in an exhibition match. Quote, "You can't do a fight like that as a pro fight," Shipman said. It'll be an exhibition fight, end quote. Similarly to the concerning location move, he states that the main reason for this is the significant weight disparity between the two opponents. An exhibition is defined by Florida statutes as a boxing, kickboxing, or mixed martial arts engagement in which persons participating show or display their skills without necessarily striving to win, using strikes, elbows, blah, blah, blah. So, the key word here is, key phrase, show or display their skills without necessarily striving to win. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what I told you. It's WWE. Okay? It's WWE, like I told you. These are setup fights. These are rigged fights. I know Jake Paul gets upset when people say he ain't a real fighter and all that stuff. But I think the Mike Tyson fight pretty much showed everybody that, Mike was pulling back on his punches, and it just was weird to me. You know what I'm saying? Now you got Gervonta Tank Davis getting ready to sell his soul to go up in here and move around the ring with Jake Paul. I don't know what's gonna happen on this. I don't know, but regardless of the fact, the fight is gonna do well because it's gonna be on Netflix. So everybody got Netflix, so everybody's gonna watch the fight. So it's gonna be like a wrestling event, basically, a fake scripted fight.
Former world champion Paulie Molina has been outspoken about his frustration with the Jake Paul versus Tank Davis matchup. He argues that knockouts only mean something when they happen against evenly matched opponents. To him, stage setups like this cheapen boxing. Molina also says Jake Paul is gaining credibility he hasn't earned by taking part in events built on spectacle rather than substance. In a debate with Chris Algieri, he stressed that while casual fans might enjoy the show, true boxing followers know the fight lacks the integrity of real championship bouts. His main point cuts to the heart of the issue, authenticity. One of the biggest reasons this fight can't be classified as professional is the huge weight difference between the fighters. The Florida Commission made it clear that such a gap creates unfair conditions and raises safety concerns. Because of that, they only allowed the fight as a sparring-style exhibition with a set framework for decision-making, instead of a sanctioned contest. This decision shows the limits of boxing as a sport entertainment can only push so far before the rules step in. The fact it had to be downgraded to an exhibition highlights just how unusual and unbalanced the matchup really is.
Paulie, knockouts, dude. Knockouts. People like knockouts. They don't care if you're knocking out cab drivers. Look at Jake Paul's career.
You can manufacture that, though. You can manufacture that, though. You can manufacture knockouts.
You can't manufacture.
To a degree, you can. To a degree. I mean, you can't. Yeah, Gervonta legitimately cannot get knockouts. I agree. He can punch, but there's a lot of limited knockout artists, though, man.
He's one of the least active punchers in the game with the highest knockout percentage of current heavyweights.
But if he was a real knockout artist, could it prop him up against the best of the best? Felix Trinidad was a knockout artist. He was knocking out the best of the best. If you're a real knockout artist, prop him up against the best and show us how he smokes them. But the way
Paulie,
we did when Felix Trinidad was doing it. You know, the way that Mike Tyson was doing it in his prime. Okay, say what you want about the Mike Tyson era. He knocked out everyone from 1986 to 1989. Everyone got knocked out. Everyone.
But by your standard, you could say that Tyson was to a degree manufactured.
No, because he fought everyone that was there. Everyone that was there at
Teddy
that
Ellis,
time
Teddy Ellis will 100% agree with this
with the
because
expense
he
of
would say the guys that we're afraid of
with the
him.
exception of Witherspoon. No, but they all doesn't matter. He knocked them all out. There was nobody you could say in that era except maybe Witherspoon, who had contract
say the same thing about-
who had contract issues with King at the time. Oh, except for Witherspoon, there is nobody Tyson didn't fight in that era. He knocked them all out. You can't say like, oh, but if he would have fought that guy, I don't know. No, with Davis, there's guys right now that have been hanging around for years. Yo, dude, when are you gonna fight them? The lightweight division was stacked with talent. Even at 130, it had a lot of talent when he was there. Didn't fight almost any of them. So it's not the same thing as Tyson era. You want to say anything about Tyson era? Fine. It wasn't as high level or something. He still knocked out everyone. There was nobody there in that era that you could say Tyson didn't fight.
Didn't say it was related. It was the same as the Tyson era. Didn't say it at all. I was actually going to say the opposite when you talk about Trinidad. Trinidad is a bona fide superstar. And the way that he was, and like you said, he
stepped him up and he knocked out.
And he was a knockout punches. No, of course. So that's a different thing. So was Sugar Ray Leonard. Now, you also have to compare it to your contemporaries. Nobody is selling, dude. Nobody is selling. No one sells tickets. No one has a following these days. There's very few fighters who actually sell tickets.
There's a push, bro. I was at
Canelo
Showtime.
Alvarez.
I was at Showtime.
Canelo Alvarez.
Bro, but champ. I don't want to keep cutting you off, but I got to because
they
here's
all
the thing.
push.
There's
work,
a
sometimes
push
they
for
don't.
certain people. I remember being at Showtime and even watching on HBO on TV. They're mentioning Saul Alvarez, who I didn't even know his name was Canelo at the time, as a possible Mayweather opponent when they were talking about possible Mayweather opponents. I'm like, I knew who the rest of the guys on the list were. Who the hell is this guy? Who's Saul Alvarez? That he's going on, that you're putting him in a list with all these other guys that you were bona fide champions and.
Broadcaster Did Oladipo offered a different perspective on the matchup. He argued that putting on this kind of fight, while both Gervonta Davis and Jake Paul are still in their athletic prime, is a big mistake. In his opinion, exhibitions make more sense once fighters are past their peak years, like when Mayweather faced Logan Paul. Doing it now, while both still have important careers ahead, risks pulling them away from fights that could truly define their legacies. For Oladipo, the issue isn't just about entertainment, it's about timing. These prime years can't be replaced, and wasting them on sideshow events could damage their long-term reputations.
Whether you agree with it or not, Gervonta is considered the #1 lightweight in the world. And it's a division that includes Shakur Stevenson, a lot of young guns coming up. I'm not any more sure if it's going to include Keyshawn Davis, but it's a hot division. He's considered #1 in that division. Like, that's why I kind of find this a bit, I don't know. Like, there are challenges out there for Gervonta. There are big money fights out there for Gervonta. We want to see Gervonta in those fights. Again, I don't know how many fights people want to see AJ in, just to make the AJ Jake Paul comparison. One, as far as I'm concerned, that was Tyson Fury. I don't really have any interest in seeing an AJ in any other more fights. Whereas Gervonta Davis, I wanted and still do want to see him in so many more fights. So, yeah, it's kind of weird. These exhibition things are, like, really and truly, they should all be when your career's done. Like, when you think of Floyd versus Logan Paul, it's done, right? Floyd versus Conor. Did he have one more after? Was that it? I can't remember. But it was right at the end. It was done. Right at the end. Even if it wasn't, right at the end. These guys having these exhibition fights in between what is the peak of their career is kind of weird for me. Very, very weird. And then it isn't even comparable to Ngannou Fury, because at least these guys were the same size. Like, Jake Paul is a 215, 220 pound guy. I don't know what he walks around at. Gervonta fights at 135. I'm guessing he walks around about 150.
Reports revealed that Gervonta Davis canceled his planned rematch with Lamont Roche to chase the Jake Paul fight instead. This move raised eyebrows because it showed how spectacle can outweigh genuine sporting rivalries. Roach would have given Davis a real test and helped strengthen his career in the traditional sense. But instead, Davis chose the bigger payday with less competitive meaning. This trade-off between money and legacy is becoming more common in modern boxing, and critics fear it sets a risky precedent for the next generation of fighters. What makes Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis so fascinating is the clash of attributes. Jake has a natural size and power edge, giving him the ability to physically control the fight if rules allow it. On the other hand, Davis brings world-class skill, lightning speed, and years of top-level experience. That makes the matchup unpredictable. Can sharp technique overcome raw size, or will brute strength overpower skill? In traditional boxing, Weight classes prevent such extremes, but by crossing that line, this fight adds both danger and excitement, keeping fans hooked despite being only an exhibition.
Breaking news, Jake Paul will be taking on Tank Davis in an exhibition on November 15th in Atlanta, Georgia, live on Netflix. And this is crazy for multiple reasons. One, they have a huge size difference. Tank Davis, he's a lightweight, normally fights at 135 pounds. And Jake Paul, he's a cruiserweight, usually fights at 200 pounds. So there's a good 60 to 65 pound difference here. It could also mean that Tank Davis is no longer interested in competing for titles anymore and is cashing out of boxing. You know, there's been a lot of talks that Tank is nearing retirement this year, and he was supposed to rematch Lamar Roach after their first fight went to a draw. But instead of chasing the Roach rematch, instead he takes the Jake Paul fight for money. So maybe this is Tank's last or one of his last fights. And same for Jake Paul. He just got ranked number 14 at cruiserweight after beating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. So he's supposed to be fighting other ranked contenders or top guys at cruiserweight. But instead, he's taking a money fight. But I do expect these two to go after each other. Even though it is an exhibition, I don't think it'll just be some boring sparring match. I do think they'll try a decent amount. But Tank, obviously, is a lot more skilled. Jake has a lot more size. But you guys let me know who you got.
Former heavyweight Eddie Chambers joined the debate with a key reminder: underestimating Gervonta Davis would be a mistake. While Jake Paul's size advantage is clear, Chambers pointed out that Davis has skills far beyond Jake's level. A smaller fighter with superior technique can still break down a bigger opponent, especially one who lacks polished fundamentals. His warning shifts the fight's view from being a mismatch to a true test of whether Jake can handle elite boxing intelligence. For Chambers, the message is clear: size matters, but skill often matters more.
That something like this can happen, but this is social media. This is what is created. There's a lane that Jake Paul has created. Honestly, I'm not mad at him for it. It's gotten a lot of fighters and, you know, actual fighters some shine. It also has done for women's boxing a lot. So I'm not mad at him for what he's been in boxing, what he's created. This is a little crazy right here. This is a little crazy. And a lot of people will say, Tank is too small. Let me tell you something. Anybody that gets in the ring with Tank that is not a damn dinosaur is gonna feel something from it. And it ain't gonna be easy to hit it. Got boxing IQ. He may not sound like an intellectual guy when you hear him talk, but he knows the ring inside and out.
What stands out most in all this is how well exhibitions work as business ventures. Mayweather already proved the formula: bring together fighters from different eras or backgrounds, sell it as a must-see event, and cash in on the spectacle. Jake Paul has copied that playbook successfully, and now Tank Davis risks stepping into the same lane. The promotion behind these fights feeds on controversy, debates, and nonstop social media buzz. Love it or hate it, one thing is certain: these matchups grab attention, and that attention almost always turns into pay-per-view sales.
Dude, aside from make it extremely ugly by grabbing him and probably trying to throw him to the ground, I don't know what else, bite him, I don't know, but I mean, the skill level alone. Now, of course, there is a size difference, a height difference, and all that, but he's just gonna struggle so much landing a shot. You know, it's just gonna look bad. To me, this is the way I see it. It's gonna look bad. Tank is gonna be too fast. And the punch, I believe, I'm not saying it's gonna knock him out or, you know, but he's gonna feel it.
Are you surprised at the backlash that Tank is getting?
No, yeah. What is going on with why are they mad at the fighters for this?